evening, guys. Episode 4 of the Amigos How We Met podcast, and I'm joined by none other than Danni Khan. Danni Khan.
Hi.
So, again, from what my mum's feedback was, I need to give way more of an introduction to people.
Right,
so, just to let you know, we've got a little bit of a different setting today. Didn't want the comfy chairs, because Danni will never leave if we keep her in the cosy ones. We've got the Bradley Wiggins armchairs that we usually use, but this one, she's been well renowned for coming to Mallorca and not leaving. Hey, Danni.
Well, I've actually never left. I
had this conversation with Rich, and he said, "Has she actually left?"
No, I've been hiding in another part of the island.
You have, haven't you?
Yeah.
So she gets people to take her to the airport, and then she just leaves, and not leaves the island, she leaves the airport. How long was your record stay here in Mallorca?
Well, it was meant to be 1 week, but it turned into 3 months.
I think a little bit of snot just came out my eyes. I even know the story.
Yeah.
12 weeks.
Yeah, it was.
It was supposed to be how long? 1 week? 3 weeks?
No, it was actually meant to be 10 days. It was back in 2018, this exact time actually. And then it turned into 3 months because it was when the UK had the bees from the east, so of course I couldn't go back. I had to stay.
To me, the best was how many leaving dinners did we have?
I think we had about 3.
It was like, oh, it's hot, I'm leaving. Oh, okay, should we go for pizza? Leave and do pizza.
But everyone believed it the
I
first
know.
time. But by the third time,
By
you
the
were
third
like,
time, I was
you're
like,
not leaving.
I remember walking into Portofino and I looked at you and you went, not going, not leaving. That's why her name, Mum, is actually Danielle Can't Go, not Danielle Can't.
Can't.
So Danni, you've joined us here on the podcast, and you are one of the first people that came to the shop. I think the founding people were Blaine, Crystal, and yourself. So I met you about 6 years ago in a few weeks' time, or around about this time. How did we meet? Can you remember?
Yeah, so I was out with Crystal actually in Blaine on a training camp, and I always have massage as part of my regular training. Yeah, because I am a princess. We'll go into that.
We'll go into that in a bit. That's another story.
But yeah, anyway,
makeup princess.
Yeah, but I said to Crystal, "Do you know anyone who does massage?" And she said, "Actually, yeah, and someone who can help me build a bike because I'm a princess as well."
You are, yeah. And then Charlie helped you, didn't he?
Yeah, Charlie helped me. So I was introduced to this amazing lady and her shop, which is just fantastic to have
you're
here.
too
So
kind. I remember because you were outside and you were wearing this bright yellow jacket and you were so sweet. And I'm like, but yeah, so that was 6 years ago.
Yeah, that's gone so fast.
So sort of like taking it back then to the beginning, you were a speed skater.
Yeah, so that was my main sport from the age of 8. I kind of took that up.
How did you get to it?
So that was through my dad actually. So he used to do it at
Gary
a good
was
level.
a speed skater.
Gary was a speed skater. Yeah, so
Mate.
he did. He's just one of these annoying people that's good at everything he turns his hand to. He never raced for GB or anything at that level, but he kind of just wanted to be good at whatever he did.
So like a local ice rink?
Yeah. So Solihull's my local ice rink, but he actually took me.
She's from Birmingham really, but she's just a posh girl, so she says she's from Solihull.
Solihull,
it's posh.
Hold on. A Peaky
Blinders.
But yeah, so he took me to an event that was held at Nottingham Ice Rink, which is where the Great Britain squad are based and train. That's their location.
So you were 8 at this time?
I was about 8 years old, and I was one of those children that said, "I want to have a go," and didn't shut up about it. So he actually got me some figure skates and said, "Well, speed skates are much harder to stand upon because they're just a razor edge."
Are they longer or shorter?
Yeah, so 17, 18 inch, whereas a hockey skate or figure skate.
We know, guys, how big 17 inches is, right? It's like that, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh god.
But yeah, anyway, so I did a few courses of them, and then still carried on about I want to have a go at speed skating. Went down to Solihull Ice Rink and got into it through that, and never looked back really. I kind of just was hooked to the.
And in terms of like how
sport.
big is like I have no idea. I think I might have ice skated once. I think. But what is it like? Like, is it a set distance? Is it a track? Is it I've no concept of what it is.
There's short track and long track. So how I kind of compare it into cycling terms is short track is done on a 111 metre track marked out with 7 blocks on each bend, and it's just fierce fast racing, sort of like the Kieran on the velodrome. Very similar tactics and length to that. Whereas long track, I kind of compare that to like individual pursuiting.
Okay.
It's against the clock, and that's done on a 400 metre track.
And is it just once 400?
Yeah, so there's different.
There's a different amount of
different distances, so different, obviously sprint events and longer events. But I've actually never had a go on a long track, and that is something that's on my to-do.
Oh really?
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, I'd love to have a go. So they use different skates as well. They use clap skates.
Clap skates?
Yeah, so
that sounds really wrong. You've got the clap.
Yeah, it does sound a bit dodgy, doesn't it?
I just realised that people have been listening to the podcast on Spotify. You're missing my stupid faces, and I give it like one of them. I have to try and explain what that looks like. I'm looking like an absolute idiot. But clap skate?
Yeah, so short track skates, which I had, your blades bolted to the boot on 2 pillars. Your blade, as I say, doesn't move the boot. Whereas on a long track boot, if you imagine the blades flat, the back half of your foot comes up, so it allows when you push more blade to stay on the ice the whole time, so you get more glide.
So you're sort of like more anterior, forward tilt kind of thing.
Yeah, whereas short track you just obviously.
I guess with that as well, it kind of propels you forward more, or not really.
Well, I've never.
You've never tried it?
Yeah, I really would like to have a go, believe it or not.
No. Once you've tried, come back on the podcast and
yes,
let
everyone know how it goes.
So, how long did you do that for?
So I did that for 8 years actually. So obviously the first few years were just kind of learning the sport, and then started racing competitively until I worked my way up to competing for GB at 14 years old.
14?
Yeah, so it's a very early specialisation sport, short track, similar to sports such as gymnastics.
Yeah. And
So
are they all younger, or were you like racing and competing against older people?
So I'd do some races where I'd compete with the big girls, because I had goals such as competing at the Sochi Olympics and qualifying for that. Which obviously never happened because I transferred to cycling just before that. But I also competed in my own age category as well.
Cool. And how did you get on?
So my best result for skating was when I was 14. I was European champion for my age group.
I didn't know that. How cool is that? I knew she was bloody good, but European champion.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
And I've still got a British record actually, which I'm quite proud of because of all the upcoming talent.
Yeah,
and it's been a while since, over 10 years since I stopped. I feel old. Over 10 years.
Are old.
I know, I can drive here now. I'm 27 and I can drive here, so I am officially old.
So here, guys, if you want to hire a car, you have to normally be between 26 and 30, depending on the insurance policy. So she snuck in there at 27.
Yeah, fine.
Getting well old, eh?
Yeah.
So what made you make the transition from speed skating to cycling?
Yeah, it was a tricky time actually, because obviously I'd put, as other people such as my dad and other coaches and members of my team put a lot into my journey in skating, and I had to kind of step back essentially and go down a few steps of the ladder to another sport. But I just couldn't put my bike down. I was absolutely hooked to it.
How did you get into cycling?
So cycling came about when I was 15. I had something which you'll know very well. Yeah, which is a very common thing.
Did you have Sever's disease as well?
No, I didn't have that. I was lucky to kind of, I say lucky, it was in bilateral both knees. I was lucky that.
So for those of you who are watching or listening, Osgood-Schlatter's is a growth-related injury on the tibial tuberosity on the top of the tibia, the shin bone, and it's where the quadricep muscles attach via the tendon, and basically where it affects only really adolescent kids, and it's where you grow very quickly over short periods of time, and the bones grow quicker than the muscles can keep up, and it starts to pull, and then if not managed properly, it can cause like avulsion fractures and lots of issues, and it tends to be the kids who are really active. So you're probably at the time in the athletics team, netball team, whatever, cross country.
A lot of impact.
Didn't happen to me because I'm so short.
Well, no, we laugh, but that is kind of another factor, isn't it?
It happened to me.
It's
I'm just like, all my brothers are like well over 6 foot, and there's me, short ass. So I was like, think of that disease. Got every other fucking disease.
I'm glad glad you didn't have that to
Oh
compare.
no,
with as well.
to be fair, that's not a bad one.
If
But
anyone
it
comes
can
to
be.
my house, you will see on the back of my garage door my growth kind of marked
Oh
out.
really? Your mum and dad did that?
Yeah, my dad
we
did
saw
that, and halfway through is the Pepsi Max height for Blackpool. So when I went there, I was a bit of a crazy kid, kind of no fear, no, like now I'm a bit more cautious. Like,
As you get
that
older
could
though,
happen,
but
that
as you
could
get
happen.
older, you do lose
Yeah.
your fear.
I know.
And you're more cautious about everything. So I can tell you that from my experience. You become a complete pussy, honestly.
Basically, it's
When
like
you're a kid, you
scales
don't
creeping
care.
up.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
care as a kid, and we went on a family trip, well, holiday to Blackpool Pleasure Beach
Oh,
for a few
nice.
days, and I was mad for any roller coaster as high and as fast as you could get. And I remember getting to the front of the queue of the Pepsi Max, which is, I think,
Is that the one that's like a sheer drop?
Yeah, it's the
Yeah, that would
tallest,
shit me up.
highest roller coaster in the whole of Europe.
Really?
Yeah, and I got there and they said, sorry, you're too short. And I remember putting my hair in a pineapple and being like, no. And they're like, no. And I just remember crying. Yeah. Like,
I remember going to Alton Towers and I used to like sort of like make my shoes further down and like stand high, like my tiptoes in my shoes. Just
No,
to
that's
try and get
what I
nemesis.
did. I tried everything, but they would not have in it. So
They
I
push
cried
you
my
down.
eyes out, and my dad pulled me away and said, "We'll have to come back." So that's where the Pepsi Max
like
light,
that.
and he put it on the
It's
door.
like the driving license. It's like
Yeah.
that's why the driving cars here. Now you're 26,
That's
27, you can do it.
And I think the day I got there, it's like, right, let's get back to it.
Did you go, fuck you guys, I'm tall enough. Check me out and my sign on my garage that shows.
But yeah, anyway, so we've got my growth all mapped out on the garage door, and that's where the bike come in actually.
Okay, cool.
Because
Oh, so the low impact,
impact.
exercise.
Yeah. So I did a lot of running and plyometric based work as all skaters do.
Yeah.
For their training off the ice. But obviously, while I was managing my knees, it was kind of what can I get the same aerobic conditioning
And let's face it,
from?
no one wants to go swimming.
No. So
It's
it
if
was
you
like,
get wet.
let's buy a bike. And I remember actually turning up to Red Kite Cycles, who's still, absolutely brilliant. And
For those listening, I am
Yeah.
pointing to Danny's breasts
Yeah. It does have
randomly. The guys pick up the Red Kite Cycle guys. Where are they? In Solihull as well?
in Solihull, but they're,
Who's the main man there, or lady?
Adrian
There
and
we
his
go.
wife Candy. Shout out to them there.
Shout out to those guys.
Fantastic.
Keeping Danny in
Thank you so
cycling
much.
for however long.
Yeah.
So what was your first bike?
So I had a Specialized Roubaix,
Okay.
and I picked it because of the colour. And I
Like
just
it?
thought it looked cool. It was a carbon bike with some red and white.
Nice.
And I just said, yeah, I'll have that one. Didn't know anything about group set, if it was actually good or not.
It's
So
not
anyway,
at that age, is it?
No,
Just ride,
bought
just
the
enjoy
bike. As I say, about 15. Did a few road rides which were quite disastrous. I just was stop flops, and everyone does that.
Oh, I did. I remember mine. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast yet, but I started cycling after the kidney transplant, and I was a teacher, and I was teaching at Luton Sixth Form, and my dad bought me this bike as a wedding present, and I thought it was really cool. So I was cycling along in the middle of Luton town centre, and there's this big cinema, like a big multiplex cinema. It's quite new, and I'm riding along, and it's a beautiful summer's day, and it's after work, and feeling really cool. And then a load of my students are walking along, and these guys are like 18, 19 years old. And I'm all like, yeah, look at me, waving. Then a bus comes the other way, I've tucked in, and the traffic light turns red. And then I'm going, ooh, a pan fell down.
It's the worst feeling
It's like
because
the
your heart
slowest
stops.
thing, like, isn't it, how slow it
Time
is?
stops.
But you can't unclip, and I'm just like, oh my god, what? And the next day they're just ripping me, like, I was like, oh my god,
It's the worst feeling when that happens. But anyway, after a few road rides, we decided that it would probably be more sensible and practical to learn to ride a bike in a closed environment.
Hence the
so-
velodrome.
No, actually, before the velodrome, Tudor Grange Circuit. You might have raced
I
there.
raced there.
Yeah.
I got my best result
I
there. In
thought
fact,
that.
the British Transplant Games are there this year.
Oh wow, okay.
So
Actually,
you
I'll have to come and watch that.
Well, I'm not going, but
Oh wow.
Maybe you still can watch.
Maybe it still
Watch
can.
other people.
Yeah, local.
No, it's
circuit.
just too expensive because it's always the first weekend of the school holidays. So flights from
right.
here to England, I think it's like 300 euros for one way, EasyJet. Plus, then you've got to pay for the bike on
Oh,
top.
of course, yeah, because you need
I
to
just-
bike.
Yeah, I can't need the bike. It's fucking ridiculous. I used to like it because it's like almost like a figure of eight without the middle.
Yes.
And there's a little bit of a kick, and it's a
Little
bit
bit of-
technical.
bit of everything there.
Yeah, it's a bike tune Grange, yeah.
No, it's a great circuit and got a lot of memories there. But yeah, so it was just, I can't remember, a random weekday.
In fact, yeah, because is it Annesley Park?
Annesley Park,
She was racing it, and I remember because I think did she win it? But it cracked me up because I met her because she was taking a pee by the side of her car. She had the car door open and I could just see his little head.
Annesley wheeze anywhere. I mean, if you're watching Annesley, I hope you don't mind. I was an ex-housemate of Annesley and very good friends.
I remember because I was like, oh, nice to meet you. And she's taking a pee by her car.
She weed anywhere.
Yeah, she did. No, it's a natural thing.
It is,
It's okay. Oh, so okay, Tudor Grange.
Yeah, so went there with my dad. It's literally about a mile from the house.
Oh, really?
So on my doorstep. And Solihull Cycling Club happened to be there. And the coach at the time was Robin Fox. And yeah, had a big group of youth riders and said, oh, why don't you come down to our next session? We kind of do a little bit of everything. So turned up, and I remember them saying, we're going to do some short sprints.
Kind of like, in the bag.
Yeah, I was a complete
Did you have like big thighs then as well?
Yeah,
not big, but I mean like muscular.
Yeah, from skating. So I literally, I think, was in the biggest gear, like a complete whopper, elbows out, head down, and yeah, did all right. And they were like,
they were super surprised.
Yeah, they were kind of really shocked because I'd said I'd never rode other than when you learn to ride a bike as a child. So then that's when they said to do some track work because that would be more similar to what short track was like.
Were you on outdoor at Wolverhampton or?
Yeah, so I did a lot of the.
I went
to a lot of
the British transport team are based there.
So I did.
Back in the day.
Did a lot of DHL sprint schools and RSRs.
That's what Charlie did. Did you not know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's
they were brilliant actually.
Yeah, so they moved up to Manchester as well.
Yeah, that's it.
And then I think he partnered with Grace Garner.
Yes, Grace did a lot of them.
Yeah, so they were the same age group.
Grace and Lucy Garner, both great riders. So
cool.
Ended up doing quite a few of them. Still, whilst alongside whilst I was skating and had goals, I was still currently racing. Okay. It was just the bike was purely a training tool. Yeah. But just happened to obviously love it.
Did your heart then sort of like move across?
Yeah. So
did you love both, or could you see yourself kind of thinking, actually, I prefer the cycling more than the skating? Yeah,
I think what did it for me was when it came to crunch time, I was due to move up to Nottingham. I was 16.
I mean, let's face it, who wants to live in Nottingham anyway?
Well, yeah.
Sorry to anyone. I mean, it must be a big old city with enough people, but yeah.
So I was due to move up and I had a chat actually. It was in the ice rink with the performance director and he kind of said, look, we're not going to allow you to cycle because of the injury risk of cycling. Actually, now a lot of the Dutch skaters are complete machines on their bike. Yeah, because on Jumbo Visma, there's a skating team, there's a long track team, they've got all teams. Yeah. But yeah, so they kind of said that, and at the time I was guesting on ODP, which is the Olympic Development Programme. I think it's called Junior Academy. They've changed the name of it. And John Norfolk was my coach, and they basically said, British Cycling, you can...
Did they say stop skating because it's injury prevention or...?
No, they actually were brilliant.
It's too cold.
They let me do both at the beginning and said, just see if you enjoy riding on the track and focusing a little bit more on your cycling training. But yeah, as I say, when it came to crunch time, it was both sides of the party said you've got to choose and make a decision. So
did you like flip a coin, or how did you decide?
I actually got a piece of paper out and did pros and cons.
Did you do pros and cons?
Yeah, I had to because it was becoming quite stressful because your whole life you're working towards one thing and then it's like you completely change and
it's a really important thing as well, isn't it? It's like what is it you want to actually do?
Yeah, and I remember what did it for me was my dad just said, you've got to get out of bed every day and do it, so do what you love the most, and I listened to my gut feeling.
Both have lycra.
Yeah, they do. But yeah, my psychologist, who I've worked with since I was 14 as well, absolutely fantastic.
What's the psychologist's name?
She's called Dr. Jennifer Cummins, so she...
There we go,
Professor
Dr.
Jennifer
let's get it right.
Yeah.
Big up, Professor.
Yeah. So I've worked with her since I was 14 as well.
How important is that to work with someone psychological based, do you feel?
Absolutely, massively. And when people ask me now, you know, how, like, in percentage wise, what do you think, you know, sport is, how much physical, how much head, and they say, oh, like 20 head, I think it's evenly split.
Yeah,
for sure, absolutely, for sure.
Who told you 20%?
I don't know, but it's
no,
really
for me,
not. And
no, I
think it's crucial.
I think probably more, if it was going to be like a balance, not even a balance, I think it's probably more psychological.
No, I do. I actually
physical.
personally.
For sure, you have to have the physicality to be a good athlete, but you've got to believe it. You've got to, like you say, get out of bed every morning and having to do it and having to want to do it and having that kind of thirst and that kind of. Yeah, that's a tough one. But it plays a big role, doesn't it?
Massive role, and I can't thank her enough. I think people just overlook it a little bit because they're always trying to, you know, how can I get more watts, how can I buy better wheels, how can I buy this, and you know, your brain pretty much, like you said, you've got to get up every morning and do it, and you know, if things go wrong, people get ill, get injured, and then all of a sudden you can't deal with it because you're not trained. And how she explained it to me when I was 14 was, you know, you've got to have tools in your toolbox. And you wouldn't neglect nutrition, strength work, equipment, your training. So why neglect the mental side? And that's always stuck in my head.
Yeah, no, definitely. We'll come to what you do around the cycling in a bit. You know, mentioning strength training and all those other things. I know you have a plethora of equipment you use in the gym. I go to the gym with her, she takes this big bag and you think, what
Mary Poppins bag?
What strokes are coming out, like handstand and some kind of tiger tail or something. That thing that you did the massive.
Oh, the stick roller
thing.
Yeah, I have a selection of foam rollers.
That's what I mean. The only person I know that likes the foam roll. You sadistic weirdo. Anyway, so going to track riding. What happened?
Yeah, so anyway, when it was the crunch time, decided to fully commit to cycling. So that's when my cycling journey began at the age of 16. Fully committed to British Cycling's Olympic Development Programme as a track sprinter. And John Norfolk was my coach. And 2 years later became double junior world champion. So pretty proud moment actually. Pretty proud, I always sticked.
And what events was that for?
So that was for the sprint and the 500 metre time trial. And
how long did it take you to do the 500 metre time trial? The winning time? I
actually won that at Glasgow in 35.456. I remember down to the thousandth of the second.
That.
And I tell you why, because
could you get closer now, do you think?
Yeah, I actually don't think I've lost too much speed, so it's quite nice because obviously, as you know, we'll go on to detail in a bit. I've changed my training and physiology massively since then. I can't believe it's actually 10 years since.
Is that 10 years?
In August, it will be 10 years this year, so time flies.
You are getting old.
But
I'm joking, I'm getting old.
But I remember that time because talking of psychology and kind of having that mental resilience and stuff. Earlier that year, in the January, I broke my shoulder racing in Ghent. So that was only a year after I'd fully transitioned to cycling. And that was the year of the Junior World. So I printed out little rainbow flags with times and targets and stuck them to my stems. And we've still got them stuck up in my garage now. And every turbo session I did with my arm, I had that in front of me.
Your garage sounds like an archive of lots of things.
It really is.
But it's good though to go down memory lane and have a look and see how far you've come.
Yeah,
and also like with the setbacks as well, how you dealt with it as a youngster.
Yeah.
And how now you've got, you know, like you say, your toolbox is equipped now with a lot more wisdom, a lot more years.
Yeah.
And now if something comes up, you know you've got through it before. So
yeah, I mean, I still have to be reminded of that. And I think like recently here, I went for a coffee with you and kind of felt a bit sorry for myself, had my annual cold and missed a bit of training out here, and it's kind of like, no, hang on, but it's...
I always think those kind of things, they can make you feel a bit low and a bit down, and because you can't always be super high and super happy, can you? You really can't. Ebb and flow, and but it's good to, you know, always good to talk to your friends and have a coffee and actually press the reset button as well.
And that's kind of why.
And like this week you've been able to cycle with your dad, and your dad's been really poorly.
Yeah, he has. So that's been that's really tested my mental strength more than probably anything has actually.
Why do you think so?
I don't know, and I was thinking about this the other day. I think it's just because I suppose my dad, like, without sounding, you know, like all cheesy and stuff, is my hero and has always been.
It's not cheesy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, some people are like, oh, that's cheesy, but to me, he is my
No,
hero and inspiration. He's always been there for
That's
me.
an amazing thing to say.
Yeah, and I'm so thankful I couldn't do what I do without him. I'm so thankful for him to give me all the opportunities that he has. And I think...
Gary, you better be watching this.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak to you tomorrow, Junior, for your appointment, and if you don't tune in, we'll be having words.
But yeah, so I think when he got ill, I think just watching someone, you know, in that pain, I felt helpless. I couldn't do anything.
I was going to say, that whole kind of not being in control, that probably...
That's what really, you know, with any sort of injury, you know, I've had my fair share of injuries. You know, lower back, knees, having my knees cut open, station, broken shoulder, arm, you know, not horrendous injuries, but still not nice to deal with. But there was always, I always focus on what's in my control, whether it's just getting up and doing some TheraBand exercises or, you know, going out on the bike for 20 minutes, and there was nothing I could do. And I think that's what I found really hard.
No foam roller can foam roll it away.
No, really not. So it was a horrible time, but I think having him, you know, be able to come back out and well enough to get back out here has been really
on the bike
special.
as well.
On the bike as well.
Yeah, sharing that same passion that you both love.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
So it's been more memorable, and I think it just makes you even more grateful. Not that I've never been grateful, but it does make you.
Actually, I'm one of these people. I hate the word grateful. I really dislike it. It's like
I said it 3 times.
No. I don't mean it in terms of, you can say it for sure, but I don't like saying it because a lot of the things you don't have to be grateful for. And when people say to me how lucky you are, you're not lucky, you're fortunate. You put yourself in that position and you're thankful.
Yeah, that's a good
You know what I mean? And you look back and you pay it forward and you help other people out. But I always find grateful is it's kind of tinged with a negative, like you have to feel like you owe someone something. Yeah. If that makes sense.
No, that makes sense.
I kind of feel
really
like,
good
I think you're like more thankful because your dad's here, he's better.
Yes, that's a better word.
No, it's just the way my perspective, because people say to me with your kidney transplant, you must be so grateful. Well, I didn't fucking want to be ill, did I? No. I didn't ask to be ill. You know, for 24 years of my life, I didn't know I had this condition and this disease. You know, so for me, it's certainly, I've just realised, right, the speaker's on. I don't know if any of this is going to come out.
Oh no.
Hold it there, guys. I'm just going to turn the speaker off and we will see. Hopefully it all will. If not, we'll have to do it again. So for me, like gratefulness, maybe I need to look at the definition, but for me, I'm more thankful for things, and I think the same with you. You know, when your parents and your sister and everything is going well and harmonious, you can then concentrate more on what your focus actually is in life.
Yeah, that's such a good way of putting it. But yeah, it's definitely super thankful for when he was lying in a hospital bed and unable to walk and do simple things that we all take for granted, just like getting dressed, having a shower without being in loads of pain, you know, eating without kind of having facial palsy and you know, having problems, and you kind of, it just really puts it into perspective that he's back here. I'm thankful to the amazing doctors actually at the NHS and the treatment that he receives, because it is a life-saving treatment.
Definitely. And those guys, you know, you've got all of the strikes at the moment, the nurses and the doctors and all of these other things, and I mean, I'd have been dead a long time ago. And the people around me that I see, you know, that are being treated and treated well, you know, so
and it's like I can, when I look around me as well, how many people need, you know, like you, my dad, other family, you know, friends and family. So it's not just my dad, it is
it's a wider range, isn't it? So after, I've got a bit of a Danni Khan timeline in my head. I'm thinking, what happened next? What happened? No, I am. I'm thinking, what happened next? We could be here forever. Danny did say to me, how long is it going to be? And I'm like, well, depends how long we talk for. So we could be here all afternoon. But one of us is going to need a wee in a bit, or food. She'll need food, I'll need a wee.
You know. She knows it because she's had the pleasure of me living.
Yeah, when you lived at my place, for a bit, that was cool. The cats loved you. Oh, the cat was up in your hair.
Indy loved the hair bubbles.
Indy loved the hair bubbles. It's like, oh, Mum, bring her back. We loved her.
He loved all the porridge I consumed.
Oh, yeah. Princess porridge. I forgot about that. Yeah. Danny used to make the overnight oats. I think that was just posh for like
and amazing
ready
flapjacks.
You know what? You've just reminded me. So, this was one of my questions I wrote down, and I totally forgot to get my bit of paper. It's like a shopping list. You know when you write a shopping list and you leave it at home and you're in a supermarket and you think, whoa, where the fuck did I put that? Danny, your favourite thing to bake?
Flapjacks.
Flapjacks. How do you actually bake them? Do you actually know?
No.
So she comes to my house and she's like, oh, was it before you stayed over or after?
I think it was when I turned it, so it was that first week trip, well, 3 months, and I kind of made friends with a lot of people on the island.
You really did.
I
just moved around like a pikey, weren't you?
With my suitcase.
Suitcase, bike box.
And I think yours was the second destination that I stayed in.
And she said to me, you know what, I make some really good flapjacks. And I was like, oh, okay.
For riding and all natural stuff.
All natural,
Instead of
can really
buying
make it. So we go along to the Chinese shop here, then we
buy the tin.
bought the tin. I still got that tin, never used it.
Just sit there.
Yeah, just sitting there waiting for you with a recipe. She said, oh, I'll make you some flapjacks. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah,
Maybe
okay.
when I'm back next week.
Oh, fuck off, you keep saying this.
I
You haven't left and you still made flapjacks.
You'll be shocked if I turned up with some flapjacks.
Imagine. I was thinking, oh, maybe she'll make some soon. What sort do you like? What sort of flapjacks do you like?
For non-riding, I kind of like the ones that are the most unhealthiest.
Oh,
with
yeah.
all the butter and golden
Yeah,
syrup
golden
and
syrup.
probably chocolate layered
I
on
don't
top.
hate these. I don't hate. I don't like these ones where the healthy ones.
Oh, the
Why
healthy
eat
ones.
them?
Yeah,
Why eat them?
I know.
I'd rather eat sawdust. You know, what's the point of them?
They are really quite bland, but
Yeah, and then you end up. It's like the gift that keeps giving. You drop riding along and kind of picking out your teeth, and it's like chia seeds. They get everywhere, don't they?
they do.
Yeah, and then they're like picking them out and.
They're really hard to eat as well. Some flapjacks, if they're not,
They're proper dry, and you've got to drink loads more. Yeah, see, don't make them. Make unhealthy ones.
Make unhealthy.
Do you prefer them with chocolate or not chocolate?
I like chocolate.
What sort of chocolate?
Probably like Belgian cooking chocolate. I reckon.
Fancy. See, she's making me like.
Yeah.
You're building it up.
Yeah,
These
I'm building it
flapjacks
up.
are
They are
amazing.
getting built
How
up.
many times have you made these flapjacks?
Probably like once, and that was a long time ago.
Okay, you need to brush up your skills, girl. So next episode we'll be doing a cook along with Danny from my very small kitchen. Imagine that'd be pretty cool.
That would be quite cool. You should do that if you cook
Should we do
along
that?
and have different guests.
Oh my god, see, my kitchen isn't big enough. Be quite funny though.
It would be.
Yeah, we'll do that. So after Flapjack Gate, what were we talking about? So you were British cycling. You went to the Commonwealth Games.
Yes, in 2014.
2014.
Yeah.
How'd you get? Where was that?
That was in Glasgow.
we
So
go.
yeah, a year later got to return to Glasgow. I was only 18.
That's Glasgow for any Southerners. She's more of a Midlander. Yeah, impartially Holian.
Yes.
Okay.
So I was still a sprinter then. I competed in all the sprint events on the velodrome. So sprint, Kieran, and 500 time trial. Oh no, there wasn't a Kieran actually. What am I going on about? There was only sprint and 500. Yeah.
She's thinking about the flapjacks.
I am on in flapjack. Yes, I finished 5th and 7th, so pretty proud of that. Two top 8 results as an 18-year-old, and yeah, one of my career highlights competing for England at the Commonwealth Games. Unfortunately, I was injured at the 2018, and then I was actually the reserve last year, which
we couldn't talk about now.
Yeah.
So plans now. What's going on?
So focusing more as a road rider now. So in between, all those years ago, I have now transitioned into road rider. So I've been training with a physiologist over the last few years, Craig Stevenson.
Oh, it's the same chap that you were with a few years ago.
And kind of when I started with him, remember going up doing a lab test, and he was like, holy hell, like your numbers are so low.
Really?
Yeah, he was kind of shocked at what I was managing to do on the track with how low my numbers are, but how I train.
In what numbers? What do you mean? What
So
sort of stuff?
I did a VO2 test, and just looking at different, so where I first produced lactic acid, I think it was something crazy like 120 watts. So no wonder.
Oh, wow.
And just how inefficient I was. So when I was,
And yet you were sprinting to high level.
Yes, and so when I basically in between that, I did transition across to track endurance for a couple of years before I come out here actually.
Yeah.
And that's when I left the programme, when I come out here in 2018. So prior to that, I was just kind of relying on all my top end natural speed. Didn't really have the components and physiology that an endurance rider has, hence wanting to work with a physiologist so they can see what's going on inside my body, which was a crucial.
And you can then really work on
refine those areas,
the building blocks that support the rest of it.
Yeah, that's it. So it was kind of, like a jigsaw puzzle, looking at the missing pieces really. I knew I had...
Or maybe like a tray of flapjacks.
Yeah, looking at the missing ingredients.
The missing ingredients.
And in this case, the whole flapjack was missing. Yeah, basically.
We've got the tray. That's the shallow view.
I mean, I'd say it's half coming together now, but back in 2018, the full flapjack was missing.
And that was the case.
It was the case.
And this is the year of the flapjack then?
Pardon?
Is this the year of the flapjack?
It was, that's a good...
This is the year of the flapjack?
Yeah.
And the year of you becoming the full you.
Yeah, and how I kind of describe that year is kind of like Usain Bolt realising he wants to try and run a marathon, and that's what I've been working on in the last 3 years. But it's slowly coming together, and the last year I've really noticed a turning point. I've had 4 national top 10 finishes on the road and my return to track. So I'm really proud of that, given all the life stresses I've had to deal with as well. They all take the toll on you in the last few years, and obviously the pandemic meant lack of racing for me
and
as
also
well, hugely. So
training kind of goes out the window properly because there's nothing to focus on. And
and I didn't get to come here.
Did she leave?
Wow.
That'll all be revealed in the next episode. So who are you racing for now this season?
This season I'm racing for St. Corinne women's race team, and we've got a real nice race calendar, a mixture of races, both in the UK, so events such as Lincoln Grand Prix, Sickle Classic, all those events, and then a mixture of some abroad, so UCI races, and a few stage races such as the Lotto Belgian Tour, so some real good races to get stuck into and hopefully get some results.
Get up the pointy end of the races and show your face. And
that's the plan, and keep cracking on and seeing where I can get to. And
as well as your racing though, you're a student.
Yeah, I am. 3 years in now.
3 years in.
I never thought I'd say that.
No, Open University. Do they teach you how to make flapjack there too?
Yes, they do.
Is that in year 6?
Yeah, that's the last year.
Last year, I wait 6 years of fucking flapjack.
But I think that was...
What are you studying?
So I'm studying sport fitness and coaching, and I think I mentioned when I come out to you actually, and I said, I'm thinking of doing it, and you said...
Well, what you did say to me is, I remember this, and you said that a lot of people in sport only have their sport, and you wanted something else, and you weren't sure what you wanted to do.
And you said just take the time to, find you and enjoy yourself first. And I kind of did that, and then I was in an RM for ages whether I should, and when the COVID pandemic happened and the racing got took away, I kind of realised that how much disposable time I had around my training and racing, and I thought, I really should be.
How hard is it to prioritise and schedule all your different things?
It is hard, but I think just being organised and looking ahead is the key thing with anything. But what helps me the most with uni is, as I say, if I know I've got a big block of racing coming up or training camp, and I know I've got lectures and an assignment due in, that it's right, okay, let's focus on getting a lot of that work done, ahead, so it doesn't become a stress. And I think that's why I've enjoyed it so much. You could have told
my students when I was a teacher that they'd always leave it to the last bloody minute.
That just
to be fair,
me
that's
out.
what I was. I was like, as a student, I was like last minute longer. Yeah, definitely.
But I just try and keep as organised as I can, and then if I do, as I say, need a bit of time off, if I get ill or something, it doesn't become a real stress. But I'm 3 years into it now.
That's
6 years long, which when I first
double, they normally.
Because I'm doing it part time. Just so I'm not, absolutely cramming everything in. I don't want to kind of make a mess of everything and take on too much. And I didn't know what the workload was going to be like when I first started, but it's really manageable. The tutors are fantastic, and it's super flexible. So obviously I can be here and and do it.
Yeah.
I think I sat and watched a lecture. Well, I did sit and watch a lecture last week.
Oh really?
Yeah, which
Oh,
is
cool.
it's quite a nice feeling thinking.
Do you find the studying and the kind of, you know, obviously taking on new information, learning new stuff, does that help you kind of, I want to say like, I don't know, I can't say it, compartmentalise, like move your brain and shift your thought process from just about cycling, just about training? Gives you some other focus.
Yeah, I found I don't know, I just mentally like can deal with stuff a lot better now in terms of if I have a session and I don't hit the watts I want to hit, it would be like the end of the world before, because that's all I'd be focusing on, and I'm naturally an overthinker and I'd sit and analyse it all day, why it went wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, right, I've got work to do, and although it's sport, fitness and coaching and very relatable and, you know, close to what I do every day, it's still something different. And that's why I think in the pandemic it helped me so much, because the racing had gone and it was giving me a sense of reward and working towards something else, when that was kind of on the sideline for a little bit. And it's a nice feeling to have something else, because you don't know what's around the corner, and, you know, not to be negative, but you don't know when, you know, your last race might be.
No, we're talking about this with...
so you just...
Who were we talking about the other day? Amy Peters.
Yeah,
You know, she was on a training ride and now severe brain damage, and, you know, the whole her physical aspect is nothing near it was, and she can't speak, and
so sad.
Just that flash moment, and you don't know, do you? And it's it can be taken away in a second. So
yeah, you don't.
But that's what we're saying. You've got to live now, right? You've got to do what you want to do now, and enjoy it as well.
And that's another thing that stuck into my head on the ride. Yeah, so you said the time's going to pass.
Time passes anyway,
and it's so true. Yeah, it's like those 3 years have passed anyway, and it's like I'm working towards something, you know, a different goal, if you like.
Even like when I met you and it was really shitty weather, and I remember you using the rollers over there. Yeah. And we literally had nothing in the shop.
No.
Like literally nothing. And you were doing the rollers, and I think Blaine was doing a bit as well, and you think that was like 6 years ago. Yeah. You know, and you think to yourself, just crack on. You know, it's gonna pass. You'll learn lots of stuff. You'll learn more about yourself and about other people around you. You know, make the most of what you can. I asked this question to Anna Henderson, and I know you did watch the podcast because you said to me, so I'm going to test you.
Oh no.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
I was thinking about this earlier because I thought if you asked
I didn't ask anyone else yet. I didn't ask Blaine, I didn't ask Ollie. So
and I think, it'd be to have healing hands. So if I could touch someone.
You just want to touch people? Ooh, he's nice. Look at that, Ollie. Do you need healing?
That's Carolina wrong. That's what it is.
That's a really bad. Elaborate, please.
So I just kind of, you know, when people are going through whatever issues, problems, illnesses, injuries, I'd love to be able to heal them, just so that all their pain goes away.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Because I was thinking, is it to see into the future? But then
I
don't know whether that could scare me, because if you don't like what's in the future,
you don't want to see it. Yeah, exactly.
So I thought,
healing hands. I have to make a list of all the people who I've asked.
Hopefully good healing hands though, because my stepmom Suzanne, her mom has healing hands, and I remember before my back went, she come round to the house and said, someone's going to have a bad back, and I was thinking, don't come over to me. Oh, she come over to me, and she said it feels warm. And then a month later,
don't come anywhere near me.
No, she touched my left side of my back, and then my bulging disc L5S1 went on the left side a month later. So I don't want those sort of.
So you've not seen her since?
No.
She's not watching. She's not watching either. I think
she hasn't been in the house since. I don't think she has.
I think we've got a customer coming. We're gonna have to cut it short in a minute. We're gonna have to do like
I'm gonna have to go make some flapjacks.
Make some flapjacks, and I really like that answer. It's an amazing answer. Healing hands. Just quickly to wrap up, what's coming next?
So going back to the UK for a week, then I'm coming back again.
For flapjacks, there we go.
Flapjacks. Yeah, no. Next sort of goal is a Lincoln Grand Prix. I'd like to.
When's that?
That is May the 14th.
Okay.
Sunday the May the 14th.
So you'll leave here on the 13th?
Yeah, you know it. Get there, then I'll be back.
She'll be having the best tan ever.
Yeah, so yeah, I'd like to improve on I was just inside the top 10 last year in 13th place. It's one of my all-time favourite races.
Podium this year.
Yeah, podium is,
definitely.
I'd like to podium.
No.
So that is the next goal, and then see where the track omnium champs are and the road national champs.
Oh,
so
wicked, yeah.
yeah, but one thing at a time. So
No,
it's,
as they say here,
Grand
block by
Prix.
block, little by little.
Little by little.
Little by little. I think we're going to wrap it up for now. If you've been interested in Danni Khan, where can we find information about you?
So I have Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.
Is it at Princess Danni?
It is Princess Porridge. No, it's at Danni Khan on Twitter and at Danielle Khan 1995
There we
on
go.
Instagram.
I want to wish you all the very best,
Thank you very much.
and we will be interviewing you again because we want to get lots more updates. And it's been just like talking to my friends. It's super easy. We will talk about her princess status next time. It's like a cliffhanger.
It is.
You know, like EastEnders. So please tune in. We will be talking again, perhaps when she's back in a couple of weeks' time. Whenever a week's time.
A week's
A week's time. Maybe we'll do part 2 then. Because I have customers to deal with. The shop is open. It might get a bit trickier when the season happens, but that'll be quite cool too. But Danni, I wish you the very, very best, and it's amazing to be part of your journey so far and to
team
ride.
of people.
Your team of people, exactly. No, to be part of it and to go for rides and with a right laugh. And we can talk about the ensaimada incident next time.
Oh yeah.
That was hilarious. Anyway, on that note, we're
Make sure they went
high-fiving.
anywhere.
We're high-fiving at the end of these. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And this episode will be aired on Saturday, so I hope you're having a lovely Saturday and weekend. Adios.
Bye.